Hello, this is Louis Mihael.
And this is Gabrielle Christensen, your co-host.
And welcome to the podcast. Back to the show.
I'm your co-host Gabrielle Christensen.
And I'm Louis Mihael.
Remember, you guys can follow us on social media. You can hear this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Anchor, Apple, many more.
Yeah, we pretty much on everything.
You can follow our social media accounts under Never Studios. I know we have a TikTok, a Facebook,
Twitter.
You can also purchase some of our merchandise. We have various t-shirts, a tank top, t-shirt, hoodie. There was a long sleeve shirt, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I think so.
And both the Geeking Around logo and the t-shirt also comes with the little chibis, which you can see if you're watching this on YouTube. Michael has drawn up a couple versions of us, chibi versions of us, that interact with you while you're watching the video, sort of. At least make expressions and stuff. So over last weekend, towards the end of January, we were able to watch Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah, it was alright. Thought the false one was a lot better.
I'm a hedonist. I never watched the first one, but I really enjoyed this one.
It's just, like, the false half was basically if Wonder Woman was in a Hallmark Channel movie, then they get into the good part, the second part, where they get into the battle, you know, but then it goes right back to the, like, literally rip-off of Hallmark Christmas movie, because everything is in the snow, it's in a big city type, there's that, you know, the handsome guy that she just meets, and, you know,
wearing her favorite clothes that she had picked out earlier for a guy to wear. There's kids playing in the snow, making snowmen. It's, you know, I haven't got to watch a video Matt Pat from Film Theory had put up saying, Wonder Woman 1984, did she really fail to save us? And we hadn't gone to the movies yet, so I was like, well, I don't know. Did she? I'm not going to watch it yet, but I'd be interested to see if that has anything to do with the theory that I have, that it's kind of a fake out ending. I'm not sure. See, the beginning of the movie was very, I can see that, Hallmark-ish. The ending, though, was literally Hallmark. Like, the beginning was kind of a little sappy, maybe, but then the ending was just straight up, almost utopian-like, happy, everything's perfect, there's no problems. At the beginning, it at least showed her fighting crime, going through, that was your main plot point, or led to your main plot point, but it showed the world wasn't perfect, and people were kind of jerks. And then the ending, everything was just fantastic.
And Wonder Woman lived happily ever after.
Yeah. And so did everyone else in the world, even the villain, which I don't see that being plausible either. Like, the rest of the movie seemed like it kind of stuck to more of a, as realistic as you can get with superhumans, superheroes going around, and other kind of mystical mechanics. But as far as the world having consequences, that all stayed until the very end, which makes me feel like it was very Hallmark.
I didn't like the villain. To me, he just didn't have no real motive or anything, and wasn't very, I don't know, I just didn't like the villain.
I'm kind of the exact opposite. I thought that his motive was the better motive we've seen from a villain in a while. Except for, it could have been a lot better. There were little seeds that they were planting towards the beginning that would have been more of a, made everything he was doing more interesting as far as being driven to succeed. It was kind of a basic human desire he had. But what stuck out to me as maybe a major plot point that they could have done with maybe something affecting him other than just, you know, basic human desires, they kind of went nowhere with that. And I really thought they were going to dig deep on that as to why that he was so determined to get to where he was getting as fast as he was trying to get there. but they didn't do anything with that. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to stay spoiler free. Movie's
Yeah,
still out. I might. It depends on if it's still bugging me. By next month, I might go further into my thoughts on the whole thing.
yeah. And plus, like this cheetah, I didn't really care for cheetah. That was like cop out pretty much.
That was a cop out, pretty much. Although I don't know if I'm going on the same cop out you were.
Well, we only really got to see cheetah, with the air quotes or whatever. Cheetah, like for what, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So it was basically like Spider-Man 3, like Venom and stuff, and we only really got to see Venom to the very end of the movie, and like, oh, well, that's stupid.
I kind of felt odd because I'm usually, I don't know, if people are like, oh, that was gay baiting. Like Supernatural, people are like, well, Sam and Dean are gay bait. Not Sam and Dean. God, I'm just as bad as, yeah, other characters in that show. Dean and Castiel. They're like, oh, that's, gay baiting. Castiel's always there. But really, between Wonder Woman and Cheetah, especially at the beginning, I'm like, oh, are they gonna be a couple, and is this gonna tear them apart, and she's gonna turn evil, and they're gonna have to fight each other, and it's gonna be really deep? That didn't happen.
No.
I mean, they were going really strong with that for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
They actually had great chemistry. It kind of made sense, especially starting off with Wonder Woman being the way the movie starts with her back as a child. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're going to go more. And she even made the comment like she could never love a man again or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they're building these two up. They have great chemistry. And then just suddenly they switched it. And I'm like, but why? That also would have been more of a compelling story, but
Yeah, I just thought the false one was way better. One thing I thought was kind of funny is that in the false one, you see Patty Jenkins was heavily influenced by Zack Snyder's like filming techniques and style and stuff, and I did not see any of that in 1984, where in the false one you did see a lot of them. So I thought that was very interesting. So on our last podcast, we had an interview with me about artists and about my art career and stuff, about my comic books and everything. And there was one question you asked: was college worth it? And I said no. I had someone ask me about that, and they were saying that well, if it didn't work for you, would it work for my kid or whatever? And as I said in the previous podcast, reason why it didn't really work for me is simply because I started college way into life instead of like going to college right after high school. And so it probably would help if they are able to go right after high school. But one thing I did want to talk about, that if you are a parent and you have a kid that is very interested in doing art and stuff, or any type of creative thing, nowadays it's so much easier for those kids to be able to get into it. Well, not as easier to make money off of it is a whole nother question, but it is easier because anyone could get on like webtoons. Anyone can post a webcomic on that. You just sign up for a account, and then bam, you can upload it. And now you have a to millions of people that read webtoons. And there's many other apps and websites just like that you can get. And then you got like YouTube, of course. A lot of people using YouTube to do like speed drawing, and so that's a good way to promote your stuff. But yeah, just if you are a parent and you have a kid that's very interested in creative stuff, do a little bit of research, and you will find that it can be an actual career.
A lot of things
Unlike my parents, was like, oh, well, you gotta be a mailman because Elvis was a mailman. I mean, at that time, back then, there was, YouTube was just coming out. We the iPhone just came out. I mean, when I graduated from high school, so like, there wasn't really a way to do that at the time. Webcomics only been out for a little bit at that time, so I can't really blame them, but I do blame the schools.
Yeah, a good way for a lot of kids to get started too is go to a technical school where your cost is a fraction of the cost of a regular university because you went to a university, correct, instead of or a college instead of a technical
Yeah.
training. Technical training school, that's a lot cheaper. That's a better way for them to get their feet wet and maybe even get a career started. And then if they say, hey, we really enjoy your work, if they figure out they really like it, then they can further their career later, go back to school and do a bachelor's and stuff at their own pace. But a technical school is usually the best way to actually get started in any career.
Yeah, and like the tech school around here, they had a graphic design class, a video editing class, a computer animation class, um, a web design class. So I mean, you can that's jobs that you can easily get into, and plus they also have like more like computer networking and like IT stuff, so more technology. So you could easily do that.
I do know I had a friend who went to a technical school, and while we were both working at Kroger, we were about 17, and she was, for some reason, there was a district manager there, and she was talking about what she had to do because something happened to her family. But either way, this district manager found out she was going to school, and part of the learning she was doing in this technical school was in graphics and how to design stuff. And she said, well, just bring me a portfolio and we'll get you started as a job right out of high school, because she had already had that training. So even if you work in a grocery store, you can still find an application for art and design pretty much in anywhere you work.
So fuck school. Well, my school, the one I went to, because when I talked to them about tech school, they're like, oh, well, there's nothing there for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what is there? And she's like, well, like, there's auto mechanics and construction, welding, and nosing. That's what I was told by my school about the tech school.
And that stuff is still great to get into as well. I mean, tech school even has accounting courses and stuff that when I was going to university, one of my teachers advised me, he said, well, you should just drop out of here and go to a technical school. That would be a lot better for you. You'd be an accountant a lot faster. Okay. Nothing I was ever told, but okay. So we're telling you now, go to tech school first.
Yeah.
Get a majority of your credits out of the way, and then go to a community college, because they're also cheaper to get all of your, because you have to do your, what do they call it, your general education over again, or your basic, where you have to go back through and do history and science and math, even if you're an art student. Go to a community college to get that out of the way, and then if you really want to go to art school after that, find a good one, but you have everything else taken care of, so it should still be half of the cost as it would have been if you just would have went there directly after high school. And a lot of your credits and your scholarships can also roll over if you take that route, because you'll continue your education, all the good grades you make in tech school, and then community college can roll forward to whatever university you choose to go to.
And also, like, a good tip for parents who have kids who want to learn art, there are a lot of stuff like on YouTube, but also there's websites like Unity and Masterclass, Skillshare that has these excellent online courses about art and stuff, and that's only usually, I always find them to be like $10. So at least they can get a little bit of a head start.
Yeah, that's usually only a month subscription at a time.
I think maybe go into the topic now.
Sounds good to me. Let's get it rolling.
Yeah. So the main topic is Cyberpunk 2077.
We had talked about this at the end of last month's podcast, going into the news and all the things that Cyberpunk 2077 was facing as far as lawsuits and everything else, and all the complaints about bad gameplay. Michael said he actually played it himself, so.
So Cyberpunk 2077 is the highly anticipated open world role-playing action game developed by CD Projekt RED, based off the tabletop role player of the same name. The video game story is set in Night City, a metropolis where the ghettos are overflowing with corruption, glamour, and cybernetic body mutilation. As the player assumes the role of V, a hired mercenary, the player explores a vast sci-fi city where you choose how to become a legend in the streets of Night City. With the help of your friend Jackie Wells, V will take on a dangerous heist to steal the relic, a biochip. However, the heist plans fails, and now V is haunted by the digital ghost of the iconic rock musician Johnny Silverhands, played by Kanye Reeds. Much like the memes, creating my characters took hours with the impressive in-depth character customization. Although hairstyles was, in my opinion, a disappointment, and the customizing your genitalia feature is overrated. After finishing creating your sci-fi character named V, the player has a choice of 3 different backgrounds or life paths: corporal, street kid, or nomad. I chose nomad for my character. All 3 of these backgrounds or life paths comprise of V starting a new life in Night City with friend and local thug Jackie Wells, and being sent on various gigs by the friend T-Bug, a net runner. Similar to games like Deus Ex, Cyberpunk 2077 gives the player access to a wide range of cybernetic powers in which it can be used to do some insane creative hacks. There are several ways of attaining these powers: killing cybermod enemies, visiting the various ripple docks scattered about the city, and my personal favorite, exploring and looting the dense streets and alleyways of this cyberpunk city. Ranged weapons can be also be modified into 3 different types: power, tech, and smart. Each one of these can be equipped with bullets that penetrates walls or enemies, and homing bullets. The developer CD Projekt RED execute a fluid and sometimes too complex class system as the player progresses. They are allowed to assign points to each of the 5 core stats: body, reflexes, intelligence, technical ability, and cool. The fluid class system results in a complete custom built tailored to your playstyle. However, I felt at times there was too many options to really truly get to your desired playstyle. Cyberpunk 2077's story is an absolute roller coaster both in quality and emotion. The story keeps the player on the edge of the seat throughout most of the plot. There are many moments where the developers shine as storytellers, where the plot gives us a deep, in-depth, emotional moments. However, there are also points in the story where it simply just falls flat. Surprisingly, the side stories in Cyberpunk 2077 were actually quite good. Like the main story itself, many of the side stories had in-depth emotions. There are several endings and a secret ending the player could choose in Cyberpunk 2077. Many players have ranked these endings from best to worst. However, I felt, despite which ending I chose, I was mostly satisfied with them. The conclusion is that if CD Projekt RED didn't have such a controversial launch and lied, this could have been another great hit for them. However, once the bugs and glitches are fixed with updates already releasing, Cyberpunk 2077 could be a great game. Many of the players may say this is just a sci-fi version of GTA, although not entirely untrue, but I felt because of the emotional deep stories and the satisfying ending, I believe CD Projekt RED Cyberpunk 2077 was overall a more superior game than GTA.
So the glitches didn't make it a make or break. What kind of game console were you playing this on?
I was playing on the PlayStation 4 base model.
Yeah,
And
so it's
yeah, and I did turn off all the graphical settings and stuff, and so I basically was playing on like low settings. I think it wasn't that bad. I mean, I can understand how people may have had problems with it and stuff, but it just seems like if you did have a high end um gaming PC, that they had a lot better experience, and like people with the new Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they had a pretty decent, pretty good experience, but it was just on the base model Xbox One and on PlayStation 4 where people did have a lot of problems. There was this one game on YouTube I watched it. I think really the reason why he had constantly hadn't it shut down on him is because he was screaming it on Twitch at the exact same time. And
yeah.
like actually apparently my internet is not even good enough to stream like me drawing something, so let alone a video game like Cyberpunk. So it's a pretty big game, and then you're streaming it to all these different streaming services and stuff. So that probably takes a big power from your computer and stuff to be able to do all of that. So I think that's the reason why he had so much problems.
How long did it take you to complete the game? I mean, you said you played through each ending, so
Um, I don't know how long I only played it a little bit here, a little bit there, and there. So I don't recall how many hours I really put into it.
so like before each ending, were you able to have a save point and go back and see the ending again?
Yeah,
Okay. At first, I was thinking it was like another Skyrim, but considering you were able to beat it pretty handily. I mean, you could in Skyrim if you just avoided all the side quests and just went straight through to the main boss and didn't recreate your character a million times. But you're saying it's more like a Grand Theft Auto than a Skyrim, then?
overall, no, it's more like Skyrim.
Okay.
But because like CD Projekt Red pretty much made it out like it is GTA, where you can just go off and do whatever, and you get to drive around and listen to music. You get to shoot people, and the cops will come after you, just like in GTA. But a lot of that, nah, you couldn't really. But with the RPG and an actual good story, where GTA, I never really cared for the story, and I think the last couple ones didn't really even have a story. There was one, I don't recall it. But yeah, there's a certain point where it will tell you in the game that from this point on you cannot go back. So you just save it there, then you can go back and do all the different stuff. And plus, I went back, did a whole nother game, and so I can see through the other things to go back and write this.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that The Witcher 3, the last game, CD Projekt's Red last game, is a much more superior game. And like I said, if it wasn't for all the glitches and CD Projekt Red actually did lie about a lot of stuff, I think it would have been much well received. I think it still sounds like that once they found out that Xbox and Sony and stuff was releasing the next generation of consoles, they completely stopped development for base model, the last gen or current gen, really, because people still can't really get the next gen consoles. They just completely abandoned development on that and only focused to working on that. I know, like, one gamer I watch on YouTube, he says that what they should have done is just release it on PC, then maybe in 6 months release on like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and then release it on the base models, so PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
That would have been a better release strategy. I'm sure the hype wouldn't have died down for it.
Yeah, and then I guess, of course, it was the executives and the investors and stuff of CD Projekt RED that forced them to do all this. And
well, yeah, because they put their foot in their mouth when they promised the investors that yes, the base model Xbox One and your PlayStation 4, this game is ready and playable. And they should have never done that. They did that in January of 2019, I believe, not even 2020. Might have been 2020 if they said that.
They said that it would be playable on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, that it runs surprisingly well on those consoles, like literally a day before it launched.
But even before that, they had promised the investors, I believe, it probably was January 2020, that it would be able to run on everything from the day it released, and that's why they got their money and lied, which you don't do in business.
Yeah, because the actual development was to be on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and like I said, it sounds like once they found out that the consoles was coming out with a new one, they switched to that. But yeah, I know some people giving CD Projekt RED some credit and stuff, like backing them up on things, but still the fact remains that this was originally going to be a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One game, and that was, the majority of the actual development was happening before the pandemic ever happened. So they can't really use that much as an excuse.
And they lied. All they had to say was, unfortunately, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One have fallen behind where we would like them to be in development. We'll still release it for the newest consoles and PC. In a few months, we'll have it out for everyone else. We're sorry this is a disappointment, but when it comes out, it's going to be great, and that's what we aspire to. Instead, they're like, oh, it's fine. It's good. Just play it. It's great. No worries. Which it does sound like it's a pretty good game, so it's just all about lying. Don't lie.
Like I said, what makes it more superior game than what GTA is because it's a story and stuff. I mean, there was some parts in the story where I felt like it just wasn't good storytelling. Like, if you're going through like the hero's journey, which is what like Star Wars and a lot of superhero movies are written as, the hero's journey. There was that one point where someone dies, and is the point where, like, you know what, I don't want my ordinary life anymore. Like Luke, like, I'm a farmer. I had to stay with my aunt and uncle to help farm. Well, they die. It's like, well, okay, I'll go with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan dies. Like, nope, I'm in the Rebel Alliance now. I'm gonna fight. There was points like that, like, but it just like it didn't happen. Like all right, now this is where it's gonna start going.
It wasn't story. Beat by beat narrative where you're like, oh, that's the mentor character. He's gonna die, and then this is gonna happen.
Yeah, I did hear people talking about it, which, like, going back and looking at it, and like, yeah, that is kind of pretty much ripping off. But they said with Johnny Silverhands, with it being like this ghost that pops up throughout, the game story and stuff, is a rip off of Batman Arkham Knight, where the Joker will pop up because he's like inside Batman's head at Arkham Asylum. So that I thought that was pretty funny. So one thing, like I said in the review, the genitalia kind of stuff was very overrated. I know a lot of people was mismatching things and stuff, but after that, at the very beginning of the game, you don't really see it after that. I mean, it's like pointless. It doesn't affect your the story or anything, whether or not you're a male, female, or a little bit of mixture of both. It doesn't matter. I thought that was just a waste of time, really, and like you can put the length of a male penis and stuff, and that like okay. It's like
You don't actually scare somebody when you try to accuse them. You're like, okay, you just
it,
take your pants off, and they're like, no, and just run, jump out a window.
I mean, there was like sex scenes and stuff, but it it was just like soft core stuff where there's an object or something in the way, or
It's like
know,
The Sims.
I mean,
Go
I mean,
woohoo
you
on
can
the
see
bed.
the breasts and stuff, and boobs, but that's about it. And I don't know, for like something that is cyberpunk, that genre is always about like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And like I kind of said, it's corruption and glamour and stuff. But I was just wasn't that many in there. That
You
you even go to a script joint too, several times, where you get virtual lap dances, which actually do get it. At least I didn't get an actual a virtual lap dance. I had to solve a moron. So that's why I was there. I saw a moron.
you didn't roll your initiative high enough, Michael.
But yeah, and I said in the review that it had an impressive, in-depth character customization. Actually, going back and looking at it, it's not that impressive. It's in depth. It just like yeah, it's about Skyrim's. You know, I think Skyrim had more, but like probably not much more. But that was a fucking 15-year-old game, so
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is it like Skyrim? Although it doesn't sound like you have that many. So you don't have races or anything. You just have your three classes you choose from, and
yeah. And you can change the skin color,
but it's
but
not like you can be a cyborg person or a
you can.
alien.
I mean, you can get this mods and stuff to make it pretty much like you're a cyborg and then like you're an alien looking thing, but nah.
But you don't actually get the class thing, and all it is just a little bit of extra dialogue to say, "Oh, I don't see your kind around here very often. That's weird."
And like the class system, yeah, the class system, like they want basically what they was doing, where you could be both a tank and a stealth person, but to me it's kind of one of those things like a 2-in-1 type of thing where it's not really all that great.
Like being a cleric and a rogue. Because as a rogue, you steal stuff, that's your whole bit. But as a cleric, usually you serve a god of good. So therefore, they get pissed at you every time you stole something. You can make that an interesting character arc, but that's a tabletop RPG thing where you'd have a dungeon master and you'd have an in-depth where you could really play around with that stuff and figure out if that's really what you wanted to do. You could get help from the dungeon master in it, being like, oh, that would or wouldn't work, and you could actually have a lot of ability to role play it the way you want it. It doesn't necessarily work in a.
Yeah, it's just you couldn't be like all that great of a tank and all that great of a rogue type person. It's just you're a decent rogue and he was a decent tank. And like to me, it just would have been better if we could have been a badass tank or a badass rogue, and that's it. Yeah.
You know what game does do a great all-in-one Skyrim? You can beat everything in Skyrim.
Yeah. You get the legendary mode.
Yep.
And after that, you shoot down dragons with one bow, one arrow. I guess it's time to move on to the news.
Yeah, we get to talk about Skyrim in there too. Kinda unfortunately. Alright, on to the news. From a new report by the Motion Picture Producers Association of Japan, box office data from 2020 confirms Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Mugen Train did certainly pull the nation's box office out of a total backslide thanks to the pandemic. Unfortunately, the box office was still down 55% and reached a 20-year low. I'm sure that data probably holds true for a lot of theaters across the world. Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Mugen Train grossed more than $352 million, making it the highest grossing anime movie in Japan, and is on track to be the highest grossing anime movie globally released as well. And it has yet to hit North American theaters.
Yeah.
Still no news on when that will release in North America, but...
Yeah, fucking film critics. They're like, oh, don't go into movies and because of the pandemic, and now that the movie industry is about to collapse and going into bankruptcy, they all like, oh, well, the reason why is because you people didn't go to it. I'm like, fuck off, piece of shit. And yet here we are in Japan going to it, and they doing just fine.
China.
Yeah.
I know that 352 million, it was China that really pushed that above, because I believe in China that the box office release for Mugen Train surpassed the box office release for Spirited Away when it was finally released in China. So, on other anime news, a teaser poster for the Goblin Slayer announced the coming of the second season of the anime. In honor of season 2, an announcement video was released. However, no new footage was showcased in the video. The possible release is late 2021 or early 2022. Catch the first season, an anime movie of Goblin Slayer on Crunchyroll. I watched the first season of Goblin Slayer. I haven't got to the movie yet. Have you had a chance to see Goblin Slayer yet?
No, I've been just watching Demon Slayer.
Goblin Slayer is a total ride, man. It's a different kind of anime.
So that's kind of like the Sword Art Online type of thing.
Sorta. I don't know if it's being satirical or if it's being really, really, really straight with its. You know how they have that whole kind of like Sword Art Online where everyone's like, oh, Kirito's Jesus and he can do no wrong and he has just a harem of women following him around. That happens in Goblin Slayer, but the whole time the dude never removes his face plate. So you think towards the end of the last episode he's going to show his face and he's going to be like maybe a common looking dude or something. He takes his mask off and you don't really see his face, you see his chin, and everyone's like totally in love more with him. And I'm like, I don't know if this is supposed to be satirical or played straight or both. It's a really enjoyable show though, either way. Definitely if you like tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff.
But going back to Demon Slayer, that was very impressive how much they are doing, how well they are doing both with the movie and with the anime and manga, because both of those are outselling like so much, grossing so high on everything.
That final chapter is going to be released soon of the manga.
Not quite sure if this is actually true because I literally just read it on Facebook. But I guess the final season of Black Clover is coming.
Yeah, I seen that as a tweet from Crunchyroll because I follow their Twitter, and they said that the final episode of Black Clover will air in March.
That's like the final of that season or the final? They said I read it in a anime group on Facebook, so it wasn't from Crunchyroll or one of the Japanese manga companies or whatever, official.
The manga finished on April 12th of 2020. So
did it finish though, or did it get canceled? That's my question.
That is the question probably at large. I mean, apparently the news thing I could find was 2 years ago. I'm asking if things are going to be at an end. Okay, this is from HITC. Is Black Clover anime ending? New report shocks the fan base and wider community. There have been numerous rumors that the anime series may take a hiatus circulating social media over the past few months. Now new information has revealed the fate of Black Clover, but is the anime series actually ending? The announcement was made on the official Black Clover anime Twitter page earlier today, which stated that the final broadcast, i.e. episode 170, will be on March 30th, 2021. Following the news, it was also revealed that the production team will be making a serious announcement after the final broadcast. It is currently unclear what the series announcement will be about, but many fans speculate that this will concern the move towards seasonal episodes or potentially an anime movie. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is reportedly releasing sooner than we anticipated. GameAware, an Austrian retailer, has claimed that the sequel to one of the greatest games of all time will be released in the second quarter of 2021. This rumor also is in line with another big Nintendo rumor, the Super Nintendo Switch. From a Brazilian journalist by the name PH Brazil, suggested that the next Switch console will not be called the Nintendo Switch Pro, but Super Nintendo Switch. There was no other updates to the Pro console.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of when I hear Super is Dragon Ball Super, and I have mixed feelings on that.
When I think Super, I think of Super Nintendo 64, Super Mario. So I mean, it goes with Nintendo, so
Mario Brothers.
yeah, Super Castlevania. But yeah, that's awesome. I love Breath of the Wild, so I can't wait for this sequel, that one, and I think having a more big on, more graphically intense, sequel, you definitely will need a more pro level console, and with PlayStation and Xbox putting out their newest console, like Nintendo really needs to put out a console,
Yeah,
a pro version.
don't want to have what happened to the GameCube happen again.
What happened to the GameCube?
I miss the GameCube. I understand they went in the direction of Wii to be innovative, but GameCube was my favorite console.
But it does seem like all the rumors about the Super Nintendo or Nintendo Switch Pro is still a handheld. To me, it would be so much better as just a console only. Like you get a controller and stuff, you can plug it into your TV.
I think we had talked about it before that it would be nice if they had. This one is the only time it would make sense for a console to be like, this is the Xbox One S, this is the Xbox One XZ 5000. It makes sense in my mind for Nintendo to have their Nintendo Super Pro, which was where you just had it as a console only, and then Nintendo Super Lite, where it was just handheld, and then console. That would be...
Like, just keep it as Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Not Super Nintendo. But yeah, to me, I think that's a good thing. The Nintendo Switch Lite, which is only handheld. You got the Nintendo Switch, which is handheld and console, and then you can have Super Nintendo Switch as only, a console. And I think that like right now financially I wouldn't be able to do, but I would prefer to do this, would have the Super Nintendo, at home, so I can have that, but the Nintendo Switch Lite on the go. Like I said, if you don't have the money to buy both, then you just get the Nintendo Switch, and then you get a little bit of the best of both worlds kind of thing. I think that is more in line with what Nintendo would be doing.
And kind of like you pointed out, it's already doing now with the Lite and then the regular Nintendo.
Because most of the people I know with the Nintendo Switch, they actually play it as a console only, like in the dock, like how I have mine right now. I haven't taken that out since like 1982, and I haven't really played it as a handheld thing in forever, and so I think a lot more people would like that, more the hardcore gamers. And then if you have it console, like, you can make it a little bit bigger and put in more powerful graphic cards and more powerful CPUs and processors in it to make it more powerful, and then you can really play stuff like The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play it on the Nintendo Switch, but a lot of people say they had to put away, they have to, do a lot to optimize it, be able to run it on Nintendo.
Now for the bad rumors, because you go from something really great to something really shitty. Insider Tyler McVicker recently claimed that Fallout New Vegas 2 is in development, but he also believes that he doesn't expect Elder Scrolls 6 to be released until 2026 at the earliest. This does mean that there would be children who would almost be adults in the release gaps between Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, fuck Todd Howard.
Yes,
That's this.
Todd Howard, the guy who
Same
was
one.
just like, well, fuck you guys, right?
Now I think what it is, because from another report about how he is going to be the producer for what there was rumors about an Elder Scrolls Netflix TV, but there was something else that was a little bit more officially announced. I can't remember right now, but he will be the producer for all of those, just like he's the producer of all the games from Vesta. And so, like, to me, I think the problem is that, yeah, this he could have produced all the games they was doing 20 years ago, because, well, they was only doing Elder Scrolls and maybe one other game. Now, them being the biggest game, one of the biggest game companies out there, and not only do they develop games, they publish games or release games and all that, and he has his hand in all of that. So I think he's micromanaging every single little thing, and, well, you can't do everything by yourself, and I think that's the problem, is that they still have that, oh, well, we just a small little company, I can do everything. No, I think Steve Jobs had that problem too.
Yeah, everything was his baby.
Yeah,
No one else can touch it.
yeah, it's ridiculous that there's announcements that they're already making Fallout New Vegas too, which, like, yeah, they should have been developing that a long time ago, because that game came out forever ago. But we should have gotten Elder Scrolls 6 by now, and I don't understand why we haven't.
I almost wonder if it's not a money game, because I know, what was it, Fallout Shelter, the mobile game? I know that was pretty popular when it came out. I had a friend who played that all the time. So I know that the Skyrim, well, I guess it wasn't Skyrim, it was Blades.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yeah, when that came out, it was kind of buggy, so not a lot of people was interested in that. But then again, Elder Scrolls Online is pretty popular, so that kind of defeats that.
But it doesn't. Elder Scrolls Online just doesn't have that Elder Scrolls feel to it, because Elder Scrolls was just a single player RPG, where this one was a multi MMO RPG and stuff, and it just plays so completely different, and it has Elder Scrolls, folklore in it, but it's not Elder Scrolls. It doesn't have that same magic as what I had when I first time playing, like, Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff.
Yeah, I want to say it's because of the multiplayer aspect of it, because you're getting really involved in something and then 10 million people pop in and you're like, what? Kind of distracts from that.
I mean, I never really
immersion.
played with anyone on there. I just went and did my own stuff, but you have that typical MMO play style that's not really the exact same as a single player RPG, Like, yeah, you can go to Skyrim and Morrowind and all that stuff, but it's just not the same. And then they lied about us about the Blades, Elder Scrolls Blades. They're like, oh yeah, this is Oblivion, but on your phone. No, it wasn't. So that's pissed me off.
No, it really
and of
wasn't.
course, they developing another Fallout game. I was like, well, you should have been developing an Elder Scrolls game. Fuck Fallout.
It's kind of how I feel about Mass Effect and Dragon Age. When that was coming, I forget which studio did that, but they kind of got to the point where they focused more on Dragon Age than they did on Mass Effect, and I was like, but do one of your popular games and then switch to the other one.
Yeah, fuck Todd Howard.
And that's the end of the video game portion of the news. In the epic climax of the final episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Luke Skywalker appears and destroys the Dark Troopers. Jon Favreau, the series creator, reveals how he hadn't intended on making this climactic moment. In an interview with WGA, the creator detailed, "The Mandalorian inherits a great deal from existing Star Wars stories, and when I write, the context is always a consideration. It became clear that, within the established continuity, certain things were likely to transpire."
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny that he originally didn't wrote that where that Luke Skywalker came. Good thing he did though, because everyone loved it, even though that episode itself actually kind of sucked. It was like bad acting. there was plot holes. The pacing was off. It just was a total mess until that came. And then, like the CGI to make Mark Hamill to look like Return of the Jedi Luke, it wasn't all that great.
No, but it definitely had, like you said, the hype that kind of carried it with it.
That episode, last time I knew, that episode was in like the top like 15 or top 10, somewhere in there, of the highest viewed TV show or episode of all time. Everyone at Lucasfilm Disney, Luke Skywalker is your moneymaker. You don't make him a coward and make him want to kill himself and then die for no reason.
Yeah, you don't give him a proper redemption arc and just make him, never mind.
Yeah.
And then make him kind of stupid and want to kill his nephew, even though he had learned the lesson and, balance between good and evil. And kind of being in between. I feel like Luke would be more the guy who'd be like, hey, listen, about your powers. Maybe avoid the dark side a little bit instead of showing up to scare the shit out of your nephew in the middle of the night with a lightsaber.
I think what they could have done that would easily be a simple thing that could have fixed that was just say that Snoke, who should have been, not a clone of Palpatine, that was stupid, but be Dark Plagueis or something like that, and have him manipulate, like use some, Sith Force technique to, manipulate Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren into, hating each other. That would, when Luke used the Force to look into Kylo Ren's mind or whatever, in that scene, it could have been easily, Snoke projecting those visions to Luke so he can see it, and so it'd be a total misunderstanding. It would be just them being controlled by Snoke, and this is Palpatine's master Plagueis, so it would be pretty understandable that he's way more powerful than what they are.
Oh yeah, well,
to me that's just, it could have been an easy fix in The Last Jedi when Luke finally tells Han the truth or whatever. Like when he tells Han what happened between the two, he could say like long later on that it was Snoke all along, that he was turning us against us, that he was using this ancient Sith technique by manipulating your enemy's minds, and right there.
Yep.
That would have been fine right there.
And then Snoke could have been the cause of Luke's death, being that he was Plagueis. Like Luke finds that out, and then you could have still had that whole secret Dark Emperor reveal in the third movie, but instead of it being Sidious, it could have been Plagueis.
Yeah, Plagueis came back because he's like, hey, I'm the master of death. My apprentice. Palpatine tried to kill me. He failed. Kylo Ren tried to kill me. He failed. Now I'm back. And to me, it just would have been better that way.
They could have still done the same thing, too, with Rey and be like, who do you think your parents were? Well, they were clones of Palpatine. I was messing around with my students' genes for whatever reason, and I created you, so you owe me your life.
I think the whole being clone thing was stupid as well.
I like it. Although she wasn't really a clone in that. It didn't turn out her being a clone at all. It was just
her father was apparently a clone. And
wasn't it that he was Palpatine's kid?
No, he was a clone of Palpatine.
Oh, I thought in the movie they said that he was Palpatine's actual child.
No.
The internet was freaked out for a while thinking of Palpatine actually having a kid.
No, it was the son, air quotes, was a failed clone, that he didn't have really any Force abilities. He disowned him and stuff.
Gotcha.
And then the clone ended up having a wife, and they had a daughter, which is Rey.
Actor Jay, I'm gonna mispronounce his name and I'm sorry, Lycurgo, who recently appeared as a thug in the Matt Reeves' The Batman, will now cross over the DC's Titan third season as Tim Drake. In his Twitter, Lycurgo celebrated by tweeting, "I ain't no crying thug no more. I'm the best detective in Gotham. I am Tim Drake. See you, Season 3, Fandom Love, at DC Titans at Variety."
Yeah, I never really been that interested in the Titans live action TV show. It just seems like so many of the people in there just doesn't, to me, ain't good parts for the characters they playing. This guy is African American, and Tim Great in the comics isn't. And I never heard about this guy before, and actually I think the biggest role he probably had was playing the thug in the Batman, which hasn't even been released yet, and so I don't know if he would be good or not. So I mean, that's all. I mean, I don't mind when they gender swap or like
Ethnicity swap.
yeah, and that because like in the Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, Jeffrey Wright, who is an African American, plays Jim Gordon, Commissioner Jim Gordon, but the thing is, like, I watched Westworld on HBO, and he's excellent in that. So I do believe that he gonna do a great job in it as Jim Gordon. So where this is a very young actor, Jay is, and so I just don't know.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad for him because he is getting stuck in. I don't know, maybe DC's Titan is doing really well. I haven't watched any of it either. Live action adaptations of beloved cartoon or anime stuff just kind of throws me for a loop sometimes.
And there was like Jason Todd. I only seen a clip of it, and the guy that playing Jason Todd, like, he looks like a fuckboy. Just like when I first saw it, I actually thought that was like Superboy.
Yeah.
You know, come on, Superboy as a live action Paulson, as a real Paulson, he probably looked like that kind of fuckboy type of, with the hair kind of spike up at the top,
Yeah.
you know that exactly, and he had this really cocky attitude, and which that Jason Todd did kind of had a cocky attitude, but it was more like a streak attitude, like he doesn't give a shit, because he was more of a streak punk before Batman took him under his wing. I don't know, maybe Jay will do great. He said that I am the best detective in Gotham. Tim Great in the comics was like, he studied like criminology and everything, and even as a young boy, because he wanted to be like Batman and stuff, and trained martial art and everything. So
Yeah, maybe Jay Lucargo will be the best thing to come out of DC Titans.
well, I think the guy who plays Nightwing, I think he does a great job. It's just everyone else. Well, I don't know about Raven. Pissed me off about Raven that she was just too young for me to really check her out. Where in like, I grew up with the cartoon, the Teen Titans cartoon, and I always thought Raven was hot. And
I feel you, man, because I always thought Raven was hot as well.
and like the guy that plays Beast Boy, he seemed like he's okay. I haven't really, like I said, I only seen like clips or one little episode, and that's it.
Maybe they're setting up for a crossover where Tim Drake, if he does well, Nightwing go off and do stuff, spin off. With the announcement of Blade Runner, the final cut, and Blade Runner 2049 coming to HBO Max, Titan Comics has also announced in a trailer for Blade Runner Origins that this new sci-fi comic series will serve as a prequel to the 1982 movie. The ongoing series follows a Los Angeles police detective investigating the murder of a Tyrell Corporation scientist. Blade Runner Origins will feature writers Mike Johnson, Kay Perkins, and Mello Brown, while featuring artists Fernando Dagno, with cover art by Stanley Artgerm Lau, Peach Momoko, and Robert Hack.
I'm a huge fan of the Blade Runner movies, and was a fan of the Blade Runner 2049, who is the director of that, is the guy who would be directing Dune.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I looked at some of the pages that they posted from Blade Runner Origins, and it looks pretty good, and so it might be a pretty good series. And
this makes me want to go back and watch the Blade Runner movies over again.
yeah, and the only thing was like with the art was like the cross hatching was a brush. It was just like a digital brush that would mimic cross hatching, and they'd put it everywhere. I'm like, maybe you just ink the damn thing. I mean, Like it seems like they was trying to cover up, or use it to fix things, or that the mistakes, or I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, they was trying to mask it. Like instead of ink going to actually inking it, they just put that like, all right, there it goes. There's the screen tones and stuff. Yeah, I just about I felt like it was a little overused, but the artwork did look good.
And was that the final release of the comic, or was that just a screenshot of it? I mean, was that the published piece, or just something that they're showing off?
I think it was like pieces from the comic book. It made me emotional and stuff, but it was panels and stuff, so it'd be inside the comics.
HBO Max has also released a series of teaser posters for Zack Snyder's Justice League, as well as the official release date. However, one of these posters stood out among fans. The tattered flag featured in the poster is homage to fan favorite Superman comic, The Death of Superman. The beloved comic showed Superman sacrificing himself to defeat Doomsday and ended up saving Metropolis, resulting in the death of Superman. The poster also features the caption, Risen.
It was like March 21, something like that. I can't remember now. That it would be released on HBO Max, and they didn't announce a theater release, so
might just have to go ahead and bite the bullet and get HBO Max.
But yeah, it was pretty cool that all the posters was pretty awesome, but that one particular, because that is one of the best Superman comics out there. And actually, I over the weekend I watched Superman Doomsday, which is based off the death of Superman, kind of in that, almost like in the Superman animated series art style, but it had a different voice actor and stuff. And also I watched the death of Superman. This one pretty badass. Like when I originally watched it when it first came out, like 2 years ago or something, I guess Doomsday scared my dog so bad that he didn't want to go around the TV anymore after I watched that movie. For the longest time, my dog Dingus, he was afraid of the TV. I don't know, because of Doomsday. I mean, he's a scary guy.
Doomsday is a scary dude.
But another breaking news that I just read on Facebook today, Zack Snyder released on his Twitter page, like a blog and stuff, and so you can't really see anything, but his version of Jared Leto's Joker that will be into his Justice League. And it looks like he has long hair and stuff, and doesn't look like he has all that tattoos and shit all over his face. But like I said, it's very blonde. Like he holding up a Joker card, and then the Joker card is in focus, but him himself in the background is not. So it's kind of hard to tell what he will look like, but Zack Snyder did say he will look different from the Suicide Squad movie.
Blow your mind how much there was of Zack Snyder's Justice League. They're just like, nah, we're just gonna go a different direction. It's fine.
Oh yeah, it's
just
like
still does floor me.
This one podcast I listened to, and it's been a while ago when they said this, but they said basically what happened was Zack Snyder wrote a novel, and then he had family problems, so he had to leave, and Warner Bros. Brought in Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon took 80% of those pages and ripped it out, then wrote his own thing. Yeah, but I'm pretty excited and can't wait for the actual theater release of it. Like I said in a previous podcast, if we can get more people to do like the Geeking Around anime, Geeking Around video game and stuff, that this particular Geeking Around will probably more focus on movies and TV shows. But that'd be kind of hard when movies ain't coming to fucking theaters. And I think it's actually AT&T that was the one that made this call, and not actually Warner Brothers or HBO. That like, oh well, everything just gonna go to streaming and not into theaters, and which pissed off a lot of people, a lot of directors like Christopher Nolan and the guy directing Doom, and who we just previously talked about, Blade Runner 2049. They all pissed off.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense to do streaming pretty quickly after your initial theater run and when things start to kind of die down at the theater. But just to say, we're just going to skip theaters or we're going to do same day release. Like, that just kind of, it takes the magic of the movies away.
Yeah, I when they announced it, I don't think they say they was gonna release in theaters same day. I think they said it all just gonna be streaming. So I think they, after such a backlash from the filmmakers, then they started saying, oh well, okay, well we put it out same day in theaters. But yeah, it's one of those things where I know a lot of people say, oh, these filmmakers, they only want it in theaters because they make more money from it. True, but they also have been filming and creating these things to be viewed in theaters, you know. And we talked about this before on this podcast that I rather watch, all these movies on in the theaters and not at home. You know, you can have the biggest TV and best surround sound you have that money can buy, but it's the experience there at the theaters. It's like people like, oh, why would you go to Disneyland just to build a lightsaber for $300? Like, because I'm building a lightsaber at Star Wars Land. I'd be surrounded by Star Wars characters and with Star Wars, things. It's like you in Star Wars.
Man, it's kind of like we're watching the film making thing go through kind of what fine dining did, where it was like, oh, okay, you have really nice sit-in restaurants. Okay, well, you now have, kind of like your fast, cook them up on a grill, little dinettes. And then that all turned into just fast food. Just grab it fast. It's not the same experience as going in and actually enjoying a dinner or having the same kind of taste or anything as a dinner, but you get it fast, and that's kind of what took over.
I mean, there still are a lot of set down fancy restaurants out there.
Well, for the best news, I think that was pretty cool and pretty bittersweet at the same time. Before his sudden death, Chadwick Boseman was set to star as the samurai Yasuke. Yasuke was a samurai in the 1580s of feudal Japan who was African origin.
Yeah, and I guess Afro Samurai, the manga anime, maybe based off that too. But yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. I did not hear about this till not too long ago, and I'm like, oh well, that would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
Chadwick Boseman, he'd been in a lot of different action films, and now and then plus Black Panther. He's really good at doing accents and stuff. Like in Black Panther, he had the African accent, and I'm sure that because this guy is in Japan, he might have kind of a mixture of Japanese and Africa, kind of accents. So I think Chadwick Boseman would have been great at that.
Yeah, he would have. It's seriously, yeah. It was sad for him to go anyway, but yeah. Just all the roles that he could have brought to life too. Mm-hmm. And of course, for his family, we still, I mean, if we're hurt over it, I can only imagine how much they probably still grieve. So,
yeah.
No, don't forget to follow us and like and subscribe.
Yeah, and make sure to check out the webcomic and like the YouTube version of it. If you listen to watching the YouTube version, let's go and subscribe on the audio podcast one. And we do have a Buy Me Coffee. It's very similar to Patreon, so if you'd like to help support it that way, I've been posting the webcomic on there, and I will be posting other stuff, like the podcast without the annoying sponsorship ad at the beginning. I myself hate listening to that too, so I'm sure other people, but that is a way that we make money, and very little money. I think we made like $2 off that.
It's not enough to buy a coffee yet.
No.
Unfortunately.
And I actually just recently found out that on Buy Me Coffee, you can set up where you can commission like an artist to draw you some artwork and stuff. So I am working on that. So if you want me to commission me to do like both Western comics like DC and Marvel comic stuff, or anime, manga kind of stuff, and I do graphic designs and other stuff like that. So
By the
yeah,
way, where can they find the webcomic on at? Where's that posted?
on Tapas, I think how you pronounce it. It's Tapas, and it's Geeking Around the webcomic. There's a link in the description or the show notes to all these things where you can find it. Like I said, I been uploading it to Buy Me Coffee page. So if you donate to Buy Me Coffee, and it doesn't matter how much, like if you want to just give $1, that's cool, and you'll get all that stuff. And also make sure to check out the clothing line as well.
Yeah, we have some hoodies and a couple different t-shirts. One that's just the Geeking Around logo, and then one that's the chibi art forms of us, which is pretty cool. And eventually we'll have the chibi art form on tank tops and hoodies and different kinds of wear as well. Well, until next time, stay safe.
See you.